Hello, hope you're having a great day today. Today I want to take a look at one of the most important and highest evaluated science fiction stories that's ever been written. It's called A Rose by Ecclesiastes. It's written by a writer called Zelazny. A little bit we're going to take a look at the story as well as the writer in some great detail. It was published in '63. It's actually the first story that Zelazny writes. Zelazny is going to become very, very famous as this really good writer of horror, science fiction, and fantasy, all three of which this channel cares about. This channel wants to bring you a lot of the sort of things that you may not have heard about or ever read about in these three genres and kind of give you a chance to take a look at them. So he writes in all three of them, which is pretty interesting. He actually has won a lot of awards too. He's actually won awards for all three of those. Some of his fantasy stuff has won awards, some of his science fiction stuff has won awards, some of his horror stuff has won awards. So anyway, but Zelazny, his first book is going to be the short story of Ecclesiastes, A Rose for Ecclesiastes. And it's incredibly well done. And it definitely puts him on the map as a major and impactful writer. And in fact, I've actually talked about Zelazny before when I was doing an analysis and I looked at what I consider to be the top 10 fantasy works of all time, and you'll note that Zelazny's Chronicles of Amber appeared in that. I'll actually have a link to that in the YouTube comments below, so you can take a look at that if you want after watching this video. So the story we're going to be talking about today is A Rose for Ecclesiastes. Now I have this as a copy of this Science Fiction Writers Hall of Fame book that I have. This book is old, probably about a few decades old, and this book was published by the people who write science fiction and their publishers and so forth. So these are people who actually know the business of writing science fiction. And what they did is they created a Hall of Fame for the best short stories that were ever written prior to the creation of the Nebula Award in the mid-60s. So this book has everything from Isaac Asimov's Nightfall to this story at the end. Now all these peers, all these great people voted A Rose for Ecclesiastes as the sixth best short story ever written in the first half of the science fiction era, from the beginning of the genre until the mid-60s. So in that era, they considered this one of the top 10 short stories ever written. It's here in the book. It's about 40 pages long. Now this book's a little bit bigger, so 40 pages in here would probably be a little bit longer. It probably took me about 2 hours to read. It's really detailed. A lot of things are going to happen in it and such. It's a great story. So A Rose for Ecclesiastes is set on Mars as a human colony is on Mars. Doesn't have a whole lot of people on it. Our main character is going to be a linguist who is on Mars, and he is studying the Martian, sort of old Martian language there. There are some Martians there. They've been on the planet for a long time. They have their own language, their own culture, and so forth. He's the first human to learn the language, and so he's going to be able to talk to them kind of as an ambassador, in sort of an ambassadorial role. Because he's the first one that can kind of understand who they are, he's actually allowed to read their sacred texts. And once he reads the sacred texts, the story's going to go, a few pages into the story, the story's going to go into some really interesting places. Now, Zelazny is a mythic writer. And when I say that, what I mean is that he just loves writing varieties of mythologies and using them, legends and such, and he'll use them to sort of invoke various feelings and styles from his various works. And so whether you're talking about the Chronicles of Amber, where he creates his own mythos with the Amber universe, or whether you're talking about his use of the Egyptian mythos in one story, or the Hindu mythos in one of his famous science fiction works, or the Cthulhu mythos, which he'll write multiple stories in. Whatever he's doing, he's going to be somebody who tends to want to bring in these sort of mythic elements that'll help sort of elevate the story, what he's talking about, and so forth. And in here, as you can tell from the title, A Rose for Ecclesiastes, he's going to be bringing in the book Ecclesiastes from the Old Testament. That's the main part of the story. And so it's going to go into an interesting sort of religious conversation. Now, I don't want to give you any heavy reviews. The story's great. I'd love to. But in case you decide to go read the story like today or tomorrow or something like that, I don't want to give you any heavy reviews. But suffice it to say that it's considered one of the best examples of a story written in Mars during showing kind of a dying Mars with a dying civilization and so forth. And our hero, as you will expect, is going to make some assumptions about Martian culture that you may be making too as a reader that are going to be shown not to be true. And it's going to be much more deeper and much more impactful. And the major plot line is going to be involving the book Ecclesiastes and him trying to find a rose for this high priestess in order to win her favor. So there's going to be two major quests he's going to be doing involving the book and so forth. They're going to accumulate an interesting story. The story's great, it's very, very well written. Zelazny is a great writer. He doesn't spend a whole lot of time wasting with narrative that goes too long and so forth. So when he goes 40 pages, you know it's going to be a good 40 pages. It's not going to be something that should have actually been 30 or 25. Even though it's a little bit longer for a short story, it's not a quick read. They'll take you like a half hour or something like that. It's still a lot of things are going to be happening in this short story. Zelazny does a good job with the length of it. And if you read any of his novels, you're going to see that he doesn't dwell too long in a world or with a concept once he's exhausted it fully. And he's going to do that very well in this story. Once you're done reading it, I'm sure you can see why. Everybody from writers to people who have read it and reviewers just love this story. And put Zelazny on the map in a major, major way because it's such a good first story to get him his career kicked off. A very successful career at that. And probably one of my top 10 favorite writers of any genre out there. Probably one of my back 10, probably 7 or 8 or 9. But he's one of my top 10 writers. For sure. So Zelazny's a great guy, and this is where he gets it started. And again, it's a awarded story, very highly regarded, and you can check it out in a copy here in this sort of science fiction Hall of Fame book, as well as many other places. It's been serialized in a lot of different places. If you're interested in checking it out, I'll put a link in the comments below to an Amazon book or two that has it as part of one of its collection, so you can check them out and read it at your own time. If you've read Rose for Ecclesiastes, let me know what you think. Did you agree? Is it a great story? Do you think it's the sixth? Do you think it's one of the top 10 from the first era of science fiction? Do you agree with the writers when they gave it this? Why? What is it about that story that really resonated with you, that really carried with you, that you took with you? If we want to talk about some of the specifics that happen, like the ends or the things that actually happen with the book of Ecclesiastes and how it ties into the Martian religion and such, I'd be happy to talk with you more about those things in the comments below too. I just don't want to have my reviews to be too spoiler heavy beyond the first few pages of the story itself. But let me know what you thought. If you have never heard of A Rose for Ecclesiastes, hey, this is A Rose for Ecclesiastes. Check it out. You'll be glad you did. Once again, hey, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to read, and you spent your time with me and this video. I really appreciate it. We all have so many busy lives, so I appreciate that you took some time out of your day to spend it with me. If you like this, please feel free to hit that subscribe button over there. There's going to be so many more videos to come. You're definitely not going to want to miss them. And I appreciate it. Thanks once again.